All right. Hello, people that are joining on time. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Happy Tuesday to you all. So we are obviously just opened up the webinar. People are funneling in. And we're going to probably give people just a couple moments to hop on. I wouldn't surprise me if there are quite a few folks that are maybe in back-to-back meetings. So we'll give people, of course, just a couple moments to join us here today. But in the meantime, I'm a sucker for a good little icebreaker. So in these couple minutes before we fully get going, curious with the upcoming holiday, 4th of July coming, what is everybody's favorite 4th of July tradition? Feel free to drop things in the webinar chat. You got a favorite 4th of July tradition? And you got some favorites. I love a good barbecue, maybe a little block party for 4th of July, meeting the neighbors, shooting off some fireworks. Who else I see people raise their hands. Gower, I think. Want to drop you got a fun 4th of July tradition, you can drop it in the Zoom chat. Marty, do you have any fun 4th of July traditions you like?
Yeah, just hiding from my family, but I kid. But no, the town that Graham and I grew up in has a big 4th of July parade that's like the oldest in Indiana. Quite the credential, but so that was always a big tradition growing up.
The longest 4th of July parade route too. Yeah.
Oh, is that you? Thanks for that. Yeah, did not know.
I know that's my one Laporte trivia. Yeah.
Nice, fair enough. Well, I think every neighborhood's got something. Love that. All right, well, we are about a couple minutes in, coming up on 3 minutes in. So why don't we go ahead and jump right in. So thank you all for joining so far. People will probably continue to trickle in. Again, happy Tuesday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day for all of us. Thank you all again for joining. Excited to have you all, and excited especially to be able to chat with these wonderful panelists we've got here today, talking about how to build a winning employer brand, recruiting marketing strategy. So really excited to get going here. Before we fully get started, it's a couple quick housekeeping items. So again, thank you for taking the time out of your day. I imagine you all are quite busy people, so it really means something special for you all to share that day with us, of course, for this exciting conversation. We also love questions, so don't be afraid to drop any questions in the Q&A. I myself have developed quite a reputation amongst my circle for being the questions guy, so definitely got to encourage the same. Don't be shy to drop any questions, and we can try to get those addressed as best as possible. Lastly, also this webinar, this session will be recorded, and that recording will be shared and distributed afterwards for all those that have registered, and even for those that maybe weren't able to attend live or don't get it for whatever reason. You can always reach out to a Sense Rep representative like myself, or maybe your personal point of contact, and we can get that recording over to you shortly. Okay, let's meet all the people we're going to be talking with today. So quick introduction from myself. My name is Michael Young. I lead part of the success team over here at Sense. I've been with Sense for coming up on 5 years, and I've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of different customers, various sizes, big and small. So I've been able to see quite a lot of things for where Sense has been able to be useful, how it's been impactful, and it's been really exciting for me to just be a part of that journey experience. We also have some wonderful panelists from Change State. Marty and Graham, would you guys mind introducing yourselves for the group here?
Yeah, thrilled to be here. Thanks for having us. It should be a great conversation. I'm Marty Pred, co-founder of Change State. Also got my co-founder Graham here. We are a recruitment marketing agency. We'll tell you a little bit more about what Change State is up to in a minute, but we're thrilled to be here. Thanks for the warm welcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Echo what Marty says. I think that it's the Marty and Michael show today, but I'll happily add some color commentating throughout the event. So super excited to be here.
Nice, right on. Appreciate it, guys. Okay, so getting into just a quick overview of Sense and Change State, since we know we have a bit of a mixed audience. Some people that are probably more or less familiar. Want to make sure that we're all kind of have that kind of just base understanding and knowledge. So for those that are maybe a little bit less familiar with Sense in particular, the best way I can describe Sense is really that we're an engagement system, right? That integrates with your system of record, oftentimes that applicant tracking system, that ATS, and it's used to perform, a variety of different sorts of functions and automations to help make your business more effective and efficient, right? To help just run your business and all the things that you're doing day to day. And there's a number of stats here which are really exciting, which I can talk about at length, probably for this entirety of the presentation, but of course I won't. But we've got, of course, over 1,000 different customers, been able to help hire over 8 million employees, candidates, through our customers, being able to save countless hours for recruiters. And all this would, of course, only be possible with the backing of leading investors like Google, SoftBank, and Excel. So again, coming from a standpoint of being able to help a number of folks within the industry, and excited to be able to chat with you today. Marty, y'all mind giving a bit of or Marty or Graham, I guess whichever one you want to take it, giving a bit of an overview of Change State?
Yeah, sure. So, we are a recruitment marketing agency, which, I think 5-6 years ago, we felt might have been a dirty word. But I think that we do things a little bit different. Our background is, really complemented by a really deep knowledge of HR tech. So growing up in this space, I ran all the sales engineering teams for a company called Career Builder for the better part of a decade. Marty's background is, very heavy in the consumer brand research space. We think that, we're one of the few agencies out there that really provide holistic recruitment advertising support, and I think we complement, our continual growth with, a commitment to continuous learning. So some of the people in the crowd might have heard us on our podcast, The Changing State of Talent Acquisition. We have a couple hundred virtual coffee sessions with talent acquisition leaders annually, making sure we learn about, what is new and, top of mind for all of our TA executives. And over the last 5 years, we have a 91 client NPS score, which is pretty unheard of as a recruitment marketing agency. And we've actually never lost a client in 5 years. Clients love us because we're really nerds about actionable data, insights, and reporting. And, we take a really forensic look at, how we distribute jobs and advertise for our clients. But super excited to be here and, excited to talk a little bit more about recruitment marketing and our EVP.
Love it. And I can actually attest to the high quality of some of those metrics. That's fantastic, especially the NPS. That's impressive stuff. Okay, the agenda. What are we going to be talking about today? So give us a little bit of kind of a tactical preview of kind of what we're going to be getting into. So obviously the elements of your employer brand. What is it? Really, why should you care? Why is it important? Featuring your employer brand on your career site, some tips and tricks, some recommendations, of course, we would all be able to highlight. And of course, so some tactical recruitment marketing tips and tricks and reaching the in-demand talent. So let's get into it. Starting at the top, what is an employer brand and why is it important? Well, in the world of marketing, right, there's this concept known as brand affinity, right? It's when customers don't just seek out products or services that are cheap or convenient, but they buy from companies that they're genuinely enthusiastic about, right? That employer branding takes this concept and applies it to recruiting. So it's that process of building a reputation for your organization that makes it a desirable place to work. And so instead of some candidates just simply stumbling upon your job openings, you're able to organically attract those right people by creating a brand that really highlights everything great about being part of that team. So Marty, in particular on your insights, why would you say creating that standout employer brand is so important in your opinion, from your expertise?
Well, we think of employer brand as really the strategy that underpins your recruitment marketing. And I know a lot of organizations kind of think of it reverse. We have been doing recruitment marketing for a long time. Now we should invest in our employer brand. And that's an okay way of doing it. But really, an employer brand is a contribution to this conversation you're having with employees and candidates about why we're such a great place to work. And, to answer the question of why it's so important, I think you already touched on it, but, imagine you're a recruiter and I said, you're recruiting to fill 10 seats and there are 2 companies that you could represent. One of them is Apple and the other one is, well, frankly, even Change State, a much smaller company. Which one would you rather have? Which logo would you rather have in trying to attract that talent? Now, I'm biased. So I'd probably say Change State, but most people would say Apple. And that's because Apple has an extremely strong employer brand, which is to say that people know what to expect from a company like Apple when working there. And that just makes everything easier, or at least ideally. It should make it cheaper to attract talent. It should make it more efficient to find the right people. And we could talk about post-hire too, but there's just a lot of benefits. And again, we do think of it as that overarching strategy.
Right. And it's in your best interest to be able to convey that in a very clear way. And of course, the
Right.
other side of this, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, the last thing I would say is the other thing we always stress with our clients when we engage in employer brand work is you don't own your employer brand. You have a brand or a reputation among candidates and employees and even the communities that you exist in, regardless of whether you define an EVP or not. So why is it important? Because defining an EVP is actually our contribution to that conversation, our attempt to actually curate what people are thinking about us rather than just letting them decide for themselves. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll unpack that actually quite a bit further here in a little bit. One other aspect of this is, of course, the positive employee and candidate experiences, right? So employer branding, Marty, I'll come back to you on this, but I think really requires authenticity, right? And an authentic employer brand is based on the experiences, ultimately, that the people you employ or consider for the jobs, right? So I think there's a quick reality check we could probably all relate to. For better or worse, people today share their experiences online, right? Whether it be on LinkedIn, review sites, Glassdoor, et cetera. And so there's just a lot of benefits of happy talent, right? Particularly those happy employees, right? They can be your best advocates for your organization. They'll say that they love working for you and try to convince their friends and peers, maybe even to join their team. But even on the flip side, even for the not hired folks that are still happy or having a positive experience, sorry, they're going to be going to Glassdoor and potentially talking about the interview process and recruitment process, recruiting experience in potentially a positive way. Now, I guess maybe darker side of this is that the unhappy employees and candidates can have a pretty kind of maybe big detriment or really tank your employer brand in some ways. They can oftentimes be really loud. They can even let everyone know what a bad or poor experience they've had and deter job seekers who are doing their own research from applying. So, overall takeaway here is that you can't just say your organization is a great place to work with, but you need to live by the experiences of the employees and candidates that you interact with. So, Marty, I know that you've got a bit of a unique philosophy on who owns that employer brand. You were kind of alluding to it, but would you mind sharing more, I guess, a little bit under the cover your thinking on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to touch on this idea of authenticity first, though. You said a lot of great stuff there. I think, when organizations often think about defining an EVP, or again, what is our contribution to this conversation about why we're a great place to work? Understandably, the instinct is often to just put our best foot forward. It's almost like you're dating someone. You're not going to tell them about therapy and all that on a first date. You want to present the best version of yourselves. But really what we're doing when we're creating an EVP, at least a good one, is we're striking a balance between all of the great things about us and also some of the hard things about us or some of the challenging things about us. We're a wonderful place to work for people who love innovation, but that also means we expect a lot of time out of you. So there's two sides of this equation. And when we talk about authenticity, really it's kind of a buzzword, but it's super important. And all we're talking about is being honest. You got to strike a balance between saying, hey, we're really wonderful for all these reasons, but you don't want to mislead people to saying you're better than you are, because that's not going to help long term. Obviously, people will come to the organization and then leave. So that's kind of how we think about authenticity. Another huge question that you just touched on, and frankly, we could probably spend a whole webinar on it, is who should own employer brand within an organization. The two obvious choices, I think, for most organizations are, well, brand is part of marketing, so we should house it in sales and marketing. And you see organizations that do that. Obviously, the other option is it should be under HR, or more specifically TA. As someone who did kind of cut his teeth in the world of consumer branding and brand strategy, my impulse coming into this business was, no, the marketing folks should own it. It's about brand. And over time, I've kind of changed my tune on that. And the real reason is it should be owned by HR, because it's not just about pre-hire. We're focused on pre-hire. We're focused on top of the funnel, getting people to complete our applications and getting them actually in the seats. But of course, an employer brand has touch points, and most of them, in fact, are post-hire. And that's not something that marketing can do well. So I do think it probably makes the most sense to put it under HR. But it's not to say you can't have a strong brand and a good collaboration if for some reason on the org chart it might be housed under marketing.
Yeah, good call out. Don't be just entirely blind to maybe initial knee-jerk reactions. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. Well, one aspect of this, that's important to highlight is the reality of providing that positive talent experience is really difficult, right? Particularly in the case of employee experiences. So with that in mind, right, it's really important to keep aware of that timely feedback and take whatever first steps we can towards taking that appropriate action. And one common way to do that is through surveys, right? But surveys have been used for quite a long time, and the challenges are fairly well known. And it's certainly not challenge free. The way I've kind of come across people maybe having challenges with surveys the most is that it's really just tough to extract those actionable takeaways, those actionable insights and actions that can be done when it comes to especially circumstances that have large volume. You got a lot of responses that you're trying to filter through, and what do you do with that? So maybe no surprise, but one the call out here is that AI has changed the game, in this regard. So recruiting and HR teams can now leverage AI to generate these comprehensive summaries of engagement surveys and the results, that are coming from those. And this allows them to really pinpoint those trends that are having the greatest overall impact on the employee happiness and candidate experience, so they can take the right action and elevate their employer brand. So essentially using technology to help be that guide to take the right actions, kind of where it's most appropriate, which can be just a helpful thing to do, of course. Now let's focus a little bit more specifically on the candidate experience and what recruiters can do to improve it. So we'll kind of talk about a couple different tactics, a couple tools to add in the toolbox. And I want to start with the concept of creating candidate persona profiles. All right, so the idea here is that these are high-level overviews of the ideal candidate for the roles that you're typically hiring for. And by going through the process of actually creating this persona profile, you can learn what compels your target audience to move forward with a job opportunity and create a standout employer brand that helps you attract those right people, right? So that persona should capture things like your backgrounds, motivations, preferences for your ideal candidate. And you start with the obvious information, right, like skills and experience and so forth. But from there, you go deeper, right? And you define, what are their goals, what challenges they fear that they'll face during their job search, and what they ultimately value in the job opportunity. Also, we can document, while we're at this, what it takes to effectively engage them, right? What are their common communication preferences, for text message or email, where to go to find jobs, things of that nature. It actually reminds me of one quick story I'll share where I was working with a customer that was in the staffing of attorneys and paralegals. And in the discussion of email and text messages, they shared that they've just learned over time that text messages were basically seen as informal, almost inappropriate in this domain. So for them, it was much more reliable and just a stronger channel to be able to leverage email, which was just kind of seen as the preferred channel. Now, one actually quick note on the idea of demographics I want to make is that going through this exercise, some of us may want to include factors like, things along the lines of candidate's location, educational background, maybe even things like age range. For your candidates you typically want to hire, so you can determine how to attract the right people. And while it's largely fine to include maybe those different criteria in your persona profile, things of a protected nature like age should really never factor into the final employment decisions for obvious reasons. Again, we are in a litigious world, for better or worse, so we got to understand the rules in order to understand how to kind of play by them appropriately. Now, similar to this idea, to creating these candidate persona profiles, we also want to create candidate journey mapping, as we call it. So really, this mapping is a candidate journey map that shows every interaction that typical candidate has with your organization and employer brand, right? Starting from the moment they learn about your opportunity, your job opportunity, all the way through to when they're hired and ultimately preparing to join your team. And by mapping out each of these touch points, you can provide a compelling experience at really every stop along the way. And so to do this, right, you want to understand, in a similar way, what the candidate's motivations, expectations are for each touch point, what frustrations or roadblocks they might encounter, what actions do your recruitment team need to take or should take to provide that positive candidate experience. And so one of the things that we can do is we can avoid making assumptions by leveraging those surveys and interviews with recent hires, Plus the recruitment analytics can help gather insightful data to inform your candidate's journey map. And so by going through this strategic exercise, you can tailor your recruitment strategy to your target audience and create a compelling employer brand that is present really throughout your recruiting process. So Marty, I'm curious to again get your thoughts on this. Touch on a couple of obviously important kind of tools in the toolbox there. What are your thoughts on the value of mapping out that candidate journey? And of course, how do you distinguish a successful candidate persona from maybe an ineffective one?
Yeah, two great questions. Well, earlier I was saying how we think of employer brand as the strategy underlying recruitment marketing, which of course includes the candidate experience and the candidate journey. And if you think of an employee value proposition or an EVP as an answer to this question of why work for us, what's so great about us at its simplest, right? It can get a lot more complex, but that would be the headline. That's the question that you really should have in your mind as you're mapping out a candidate journey and asking yourself hard questions about how would a company who is making this claim, saying why we're so great, what kind of experience would they curate or create for candidates at this stage of the experience? And so hopefully that makes sense. So if we're a company that says we're all about work-life balance, you can bring your full self to the job, we understand you have families and complicated lives, but then you put them through an application that takes 30 minutes and asks them to put, their social security number and their health. I mean, I'm just exaggerating, but all those owners' details, that would be an example of a misalignment. Like we claim that we're a company that values quality time, work-life balance. We're not really demonstrating that in terms of our application experience. So you can imagine how this would apply to all the touch points. Some of them will have easier answers than others, but again, always getting back to that why question. If we say this about ourselves, how would we show it in terms of each one of these touch points, both in the candidate journey as we're talking about here, but of course, eventually also in the employee journey or employee experience. So I think that was your first one. And then the second one, which again is a big question, but happy to provide some insight, is what distinguishes a successful candidate persona from an ineffective one? We think of personas as kind of one layer down from your EVP. The EVP is that headline message, the big why behind why people choose to work here in general. But we also recognize that there are different types of people. So anyone who's going to be happy here, to continue with this innovation example, needs to want to be in an innovative organization, most likely. But someone who works in the call center versus someone who works in ops versus someone who works in the C-suite, you might want to talk to them a little bit differently about what innovation means to them in their role. And this is where personas come in. So there's an opportunity to tailor that message. It still will fall under the general umbrella of we're an innovative place to work and here's why. But different support points and different messages will be important to different subgroups or personas. A lot of good things go into a successful one, a persona scheme, as we might call it. Some of the bigger considerations are, well, number one, it has to make sense to the people who are using it. I think that seems like a simple point, but we've probably all seen these elaborate persona schemes where there's 12 different people and they have untold number of dimensions that go into them. But if you can't show this to a recruiter, the people who are the boots on the ground, and say, here's a type of person that you interface with in interviews. And if they don't look at that and say, I know that person, I've talked to them, I just talked to somebody like that last week, then you're kind of dead in the water before you've even started. Other things to think about, I think, with personas, you need to be able to actually target or identify who might be in each one of these categories. Again, it seems basic, but if you came up with an elaborate persona scheme that involved variables you couldn't easily target, like, I don't know why, it seems like people who are happiest here are cat owners, okay? It's not something you're going to find in a LinkedIn dropdown. It's probably not something someone's going to put on their resume. So while that might be interesting, that would be an example of a dimension that's not particularly actionable. So those are two big buckets that we think about when we think about what makes a successful persona scheme. There are others, but I think those are the two main ones.
Nice, great call outs. And we've been talking about this idea of an EVP, but I think that's really the opportunity where we can, translate everything, great you're working for, and concise it down to that real primary, quick pitch in a way, right? And so we talk about, let's unpack that, I guess, a little bit more, crafting that EVP, that employee value proposition. Right, because it's at the core of all of our employer branding messaging, as you've been alluding to, Marty. So one way that we'd recommend just going about it is really got to start with by understanding what your current employees love about being part of your team, right? Again, going back to speaking this idea of authenticity. And then we highlight that those tangible initiatives and perks that you offer, such as maybe diversity and inclusion programs, work-life balances, whatever that secret sauce is for your organization. And really what we're trying to do is distill what sets your organization apart into a couple sentences, 1 to 3 sentences that are really powerful though. And by crafting that EVP, might seem like a simple task, but oftentimes consolidating and maybe reducing the just sheer volume of things to be really punchy can be challenging, right? It's easy to miss the mark. You want to make sure that you're really thinking through what your primary employer brand messaging really is. So a couple tips that we just highlight and to remember, again, being authentic. If you all haven't noticed, right, that's a theme that we're consistently driving here. Be authentic, but also be specific, right? So this means things like trying to avoid making exaggerated claims like we're one big happy family when you have hundreds and thousands of people that are working for you, of course, and avoiding maybe more generic jargon-filled language, like maybe best-in-class employee experiences, things of that nature, and instead showing that, right, and being specific for what makes the experience so great based off of what your own employees are actually telling you. So, Marty, I know you've talked a little bit about creating that EVP, but it's such a challenging exercise. I mean, what are some of the common pitfalls that you've seen talent teams encounter when creating one? And really, from your view, how do we know when we've got to go one?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think, there's a lot of challenges. One of the big challenges that we see is that organizations go into an EVP process without having the right team in place. Again, this probably sounds obvious, but the whole goal here is, yes, we are defining who we are as an organization. Our EVP is kind of a North Star, again, this big why work here question, And if you don't get people from across the organization, if this is an activity that just lives within TA or HR, and you spend 3-4 months doing research and coming up with an EVP and it's great, and then you tell leadership and everyone else about it in a 30-slide deck, you're probably not going to get a lot of alignment within the organization. And the reason is people weren't along for the ride. So when we think about this, one of the challenges is just getting the right people in the room, making sure all the leaders are in brainstorming sessions. Everyone's got their opinion about why we're a great place to work. Let's give everyone an opportunity to voice that opinion. And then together we will put forth EVPs and see what candidates think of them and see what our current employees think of them. And that will settle any debates that we're having internally about, John in IT really thinks this is about innovation and Sally thinks it's about work-life balance. Everyone was in that room. We know how we got here. And that will encourage the thing to actually live on in the organization rather than just in a PowerPoint deck. So that's one big challenge. There's others. Of course, the other big one I would hit on is that because of that process, which honestly can be a bit hard, you are building bridges. Some people just shrug their shoulders and say, well, we already have a good idea what our EVP is. We're just going to run with it and go straight to creating a new career site, new job descriptions, testimonial videos, etc. So this is a very common thing. I think it's becoming less common, fortunately, in the industry, but people confuse employer branding with the final step, which is the activation, the creation of all those exciting graphics and messages that we all love. So you really need to do the strategy first. And I think that's a common pitfall we sometimes see as well.
Makes total sense. Everybody's eager to get to the goal. We got to be thoughtful along the way, though. Yeah, great call out. Speaking of, we've talked about a number of these different tools, right? We got in the toolbox. So I wanted to talk about, of course, what do we do next? What do we do with it? And you were just alluding to it, Marty, but we got to make the content. So we got to create that employer branding content. So we want to be able to be using, your employer brand messaging and your EVP that you've crafted and had those thoughtful conversations to craft a variety of whatever those detailed content pieces and assets would be that highlight that employee brand and employee experience that you want to offer. Right. So ideally, this content should be all encompassing in a sense, where you want to touch on your company values, you need the awards, employee stories, perks and benefits that you all offer and provide. And it can come in a variety of formats though. All right. So this could be long form blog posts, social media snippets, testimonials, engaging videos, visual graphics, and so on. And it could even be distributed through a number of different channels. We talked about a couple of those already, but we got to kind of take this multi-pronged approach to be able to really get that content and crafting it. And the goal here is to ensure that the relevant content reaches candidates at every touch point throughout the journey that you've already mapped out. So for instance, when they search for you on social media, they or you want them to see positive news about how successful your organization is, and maybe anecdotes about what it's like to work for you. And then when they visit your website, it shouldn't be just marketing content aimed at winning new customers, but there should also be content that helps you drive your recruiting efforts. Which actually brings me to another powerful way to promote authentic branding, and that's for it to really come from your employees directly. We've been talking about being authentic, and it's just so important to encourage your employees to be vocal advocates for your organization. Because after all, you can go through all this strategic exercise of crafting your EVP and your employer brand messaging, but it can only take you so far, right? At some point, candidates will want to hear what it's really like to work for your organization from the actual people, from the actual employees. And this can be achieved simply by empowering them, oftentimes, to share their positive experiences online. And many job seekers, right, they're going to be looking at the Glassdoor and the like, or social media, and so those positive reviews and anecdotes will get them excited about the idea of joining your team, which can be obviously very impactful. And you can also encourage that sharing in a number of different creative ways that we've seen. And this could be things like just creating content that features your happy employees, right? Employee stories and testimonials, as mentioned. And we'll likely get more into this when we cover career site content and the next slide here. But helping your employees to create their own content, or that employee generated content is really helpful. Right? It's almost like the day in the life videos or behind the scenes look at what it's like to work for your organization. Provide that authentic perspective that standard employer brand content just doesn't often quite offer in the same way. And so it may be obvious, but one huge benefit of this employee generated content is that it's just by bubbling with this authenticity of the idea that we've been talking about. It's coming directly from the source, right? And helps you avoid that generic messaging, right? Because candidates are seeing firsthand the anecdotes from the people directly. So now, you'll definitely want to have some rules or guidelines in place, let's say, for what is or isn't allowed to be shared online. Oftentimes we hear that when we go down this road that employees maybe have some uncertainty, or they want some guidance to make sure that they're following in line with the brand. But we definitely got to consider empowering your employees to be able to take that step, leverage their social media profiles and their own personal brands in the promotion of your employer brand. So want to touch on next this idea of career sites, of course, and where that comes into play, right? Because this is where your employer brand comes to life in a lot of ways, and potential candidates form that first impression of what it's like to work for your organization. Now, there's a lot that goes into career sites that gets job seekers excited about the idea of joining your team. So just want to highlight a few of these, and I'll try to rapid fire these real quickly. But start at the top, right? Available jobs is one obvious thing we got to include on the career site. It's the purpose of your career site is to generate applicants, right? And so it should first and foremost list all of your available jobs, right? It just kind of makes sense. But it's more than just that, right? The available jobs section in your site should have clear navigation, powerful search filters. The candidates can easily discover roles that they're maybe a match for. Should be able to seamlessly apply from any device, as an example, and overall just a user-friendly application process. And your career site can be obviously a foundational piece to be able to facilitate that. Touching back on the EVP and employer brand messaging, right? Your career site should absolutely include your EVP. Prominently displayed, right, front and center, brand messaging weaved throughout the rest of the pages. As soon as job seeker lands on the site, you're going to want to capture their attention by letting them know exactly why they should be excited to join your team. Another real quick tip, again, going back to the idea of authenticity, is employee photos. Right? You always want visual elements on your career site. Picture speaks 1,000 words, as I say, and including photos of your employees in the actual workspace, interacting with actual people and others for those that are just going about the day-to-day work is a great way to go about doing that. Similarly, testimonials, again, demonstrates authenticity. These can come in quick form, maybe impactful quotes, short videos, and just people talking and telling about why they love their jobs. Awards and recognition. Add a little something special by including badges, maybe logos, awards your organization has won. And I've seen things, like best companies for awards, or even maybe fastest growing companies list, things of that nature. Can add it just even a favorable Glassdoor review, that include your average rating on your career pages, and encourage job seekers to go check out your profiles. Additionally, we can even add perks and benefits. I've seen a couple of times. So you don't want your employer brand messaging to come across as generic again. So letting job seekers know the specific perks and benefits that you offer can be a great way to, again, be authentic and transparent about kind of what they're going to be getting by joining your team. Right? This means really oftentimes explicitly covering what they will get, if they're hired. So I've seen this include things along the lines of healthcare plans that you offer, specific coverage that you provide. And if, for example, you have, commitment to supporting working parents, mentioning parental leave policies, subsidized childcare, things of that nature, can be really, really helpful. And lastly, just insights into the hiring process. This is an interesting one, but, being able to provide the insights into your hiring process can be just really, really helpful for those on the other side of the experience. Right? That career site should, ideally include an overview of the types of interviews that you conduct, how many candidates, will be asked to participate in, and the estimated timeline even, for the end-to-end hiring process. By being transparent, right? Again, we're coming to the table with authenticity. We're building trust with the candidates from the get-go, reducing their anxiety throughout the hiring process. And by defining that consistent process and using it across your roles you're hiring for, will provide the great candidate experiences needed to support your employer brand. So a good amount to unpack there, but one additional way to improve candidate experience is to actually add on an AI chatbot to your career site. So for those, again, that are maybe a little bit less familiar with Sense, we do have a AI chatbot product that greatly enables this, but it's really just a great way to enhance the candidate experience and just generate more applicants, right? It's instantly going to greet each candidate who learn who they are, maybe what type of role they're looking for, and also even just provide them information. So a couple of specifics that this can help you take advantage of. Again, for those that are less familiar, you can help match candidates to the right job. It's going to be asking the candidate to the questions and then presenting them with open roles that they're a match for, and help answer questions, FAQs, providing them to just insights on your culture, on your organizational culture, benefits, maybe just other common inquiries that candidates might have. You can even connect candidates with human recruiters and like a live conversational transfer. All right, we route those high priority candidates to a live person to directly create a seamless experience. Again, talking to a person directly, collecting application details, automatically creating your profiles and within your ATS system, even pre-screening applicants, with some qualifying questions, and potentially even scheduling interviews where they may be a good fit. So there's lots of things and opportunities that we can leverage that real estate on your career site to take advantage of in really, really powerful ways. And so, throughout this webinar, we've explored strategies for crafting a compelling employer brand and promoting it on your websites. But next step is to ensure that your brand reaches that right audience. And that's where recruitment marketing comes in, right? It's a strategy of actively promoting your employer brand and the roles that you're hiring for. And so by connecting with the right talent and engaging them with compelling messaging, you'll capture their interest, build a strong talent pipeline, and hire outstanding people who align with your organizational culture. So let's take a couple moments to talk about a few ways that we can go about doing that. One of the most commonly recommended ways that we do this is by sourcing passive talent, right, and targeted outreach. So a strong employer brand goes a long way in gaining the attention of candidates who aren't actively looking for a new job. But you first need to connect with these passive candidates on their preferred communication channel. And again, and maybe a sign of the times, but text messaging has become one of the most effective ways to engage talent and to reach those folks. And using the recruiting automation, you can share available roles with entire groups of qualified candidates at once through really personalized text messages, right? And when candidates reply and express interest, they'll be put directly back in touch with the recruiter, or maybe even the AI chatbot, depending on the circumstance and how we've set it up. that can collect their application details and schedule an interview. Right, so your initial message can include, of course, and should really include your EVP. You can even direct candidates to more detailed content if they have questions about your organization. And with just a platform like Sens, you can reach entire pools of these passive yet qualified candidates all at once at scale, which can obviously be very advantageous. Now, similarly, another Ripe talent pool are our past candidates. And so really just continuously nurturing those past candidates can be really, really impactful. So you can also use recruitment automation to continuously nurture candidates who previously applied to your organization, but maybe weren't actually hired. And actually many Sense customers report that as many as half of the candidates within their ATS or half of the candidates that are hired were already within their ATS, but already within their database. So just simply by staying in touch with those past candidates, you can keep your organization top of mind for them and build a strong network and kind of ripe talent pool of potential hires for future roles, which can be obviously very, very impactful. And so in addition to just the new roles you're looking for, you can share company updates, event invites, employer brand content, even things like something as simple as happy birthdays, right? Keeping in touch, giving a personal touch to those people that we want to kind of keep warm, so to speak. And some may even go as far as to segment those lists by a variety of different ways: locations, types of roles, and other criteria that ensure the candidates only receive more targeted and relevant messaging. So just don't forget, there's lots of talented people in your database. So stay connected and keep them updated with compelling content, and they'll be ready to join your team when the right opportunity presents itself. So been sharing a good amount there. Actually, Graham, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Given that there are multiple touch points a potential candidate can interact with in a variety of different kinds of nurture campaigns, how do smart organizations keep track of who is interacting with what from your guys' view?
Yeah, great question. And, I'd say, it might sound counterintuitive coming from a market agency, but, your point is spot on, Michael, and it's very expensive to go buy new candidates every day, right? And so the reality is for a lot of roles, there's going to be a finite number of people, finite number of people in the market that you're looking for too. And so, especially as we see more return to office, happening, it's just a reality that you're going to have to go back to candidates they already have. So, one of the concepts that we think about a lot is, this concept of, sort of signaling on the candidate side. And so, what we mean by that is, like, how can we learn more about what a candidate is doing or when they're signaling, interest, right, in an organization. So maybe you have a program manager, they applied to a job, 12 months ago, or, they're engaging with content on your career site. If someone's going to, look at benefits, a benefits page or working at page on your career site, what types of content can we then, feed a candidate, based on the signals that they're giving us for what they're interested in. And so if we know that, a person is on our website looking at, benefits, maybe that's time for us to, hit them with an email that, tells them a little bit more about, some of the unique benefits that, Sense as an organization offers to their employees. If you have an engineer that's looking at, details about a day in the life of an engineer, maybe it's time to, send them a blog post about, a recent hackathon that we participated in. So the more information that you can have about, the types of content or where candidates are at in their, life cycle, I think the more sophisticated and smarter you can get about, nurturing past applicants or just people that are engaging with your content on your career site to convert people at a better rate. So you don't have to go out and buy new candidates, and advertise every time you're trying to fill a role.
Just pay attention to the signals. I love it. I love that idea of signals. That's great. Great call out. Now, one other lever actually that at least I've personally seen that's maybe had a bit of a comeback or resurface, let's say, since COVID days, are hiring events in particular. Let's see. So, hiring events, they offer the opportunity, it's a little bit unique, to connect with job seekers in person, right? And discuss what they're looking for ad hoc and how your organization can help provide it to them. All right, so it's a huge opportunity to prove and provide your EVP, since you're providing insights into everything great about working for your organization and sharing the roles that, of course, you're hiring for. What's more is that you can even use technology to elevate your presence at these hiring events. And this oftentimes that we've seen takes the form of QR code accessible applications, right? Allowing candidates to apply on the spot and instantly be scheduled for an interview if they're qualified. And you can also collect their contact information from other job seekers in attendance, continuously nurture them, and automate messaging campaigns until they're ready to ultimately formally apply. Now, actually, related to this, the Sense team actually recently collaborated with the Candy Benchmark Research Program on a study of talent acquisition leaders and found that among the, let's say, top sources of new hires, referrals was actually right at the top. So we got to talk about referrals here a little bit here. Right, our referral program transforms your satisfied employees really into brand ambassadors. That whole idea of employee advocacy that we were talking about earlier. And these people are the people that are happy to connect with you, with the talented people that they already know. But the key here is that you need to have an effective program in place that encourages employees to make those referrals, right? And by using recruiting automation, you can streamline that referral process and provide everyone involved with great experience. And using Sense, employees can submit a referral in seconds, log into the platform anytime to see where those that they've referred are at in their hiring process, right? And so it gives that insight and reassurance, which can be very, very helpful. You can also even bring gamification elements to your referral process with things like leaderboards, points redemption, and even awards, so that you encourage participation in your referral program, right? We're kind of incentivizing, so to speak, to encourage the interaction and engagement with the referral program. And so if you offer positive talent experiences, your employees will rewrite your organization to everyone that they know. And that's where you can capitalize on the great opportunity of the great people who are actually already excited to join your team. And lastly, since we've already talked about job boards a bit, I have to mention that we can also leverage unique landing pages. So these can be pages that obviously capitalize on lead generation forms that help you get more out of your recruitment marketing efforts. And they do this by collecting that contact information from candidates who engage or are just excited about what you're promoting, right? A couple of common examples of this that I've seen launched are, of course, hiring event registration, content downloads, or even just a general hub for those who want to stay informed about your available roles, right? And once a candidate completes a form, you can have predefined rules in place that then route them to the right recruiter, or maybe automate some engagement campaign based off the information that they've provided. Right, and in Sense, we have the ability to use templates and simple to use drag and drop editor that allows you and your recruiting team to easily create and launch these pages without needing to really have any expertise of coding or too much design skills, which makes the barrier to entry just much lower and just a lot more manageable for people to move quickly and gain effective strategies in this way. And just like any marketing effort, right, you can capture contact information. So you can convert an interested job seeker into an applicant, or eventually a productive, happy member of your workforce. So maybe similarly, Graham, why do you think it's a good idea to have, let's say, campaign-specific landing pages rather than just simply driving traffic to a career site or just application ATSs?
Yeah, so two reasons. One, I think when we think about the concept of marketing and career sites in general, you want job seekers to be able to very quickly identify the path that they want to go down, right? And so let's say you're attracting customer service reps. If your career site has a very compelling path and story that speaks directly to customer service reps, great. But I think what we find in practice is when you're recruiting for a lot of these roles, you want the ability to tell a story that is specific to the audience that you're trying to attract. And I think that's one of the big reasons why, we see a lot more, campaigns focused around, custom landing pages that, serves as a complementary lead capture for, a company's career site. I think the other piece that we think about, and, I challenge people to look at conversion metrics. If you're driving someone to your career site and you're spending a lot of money to, capture customer service reps, program managers, content folks, whatever that might be, how much does it cost to convert a lead, right? Convert a candidate into, or a visitor into a lead. And, a lot of times what we always find is, driving someone to a career site, it often costs more to convert that applicant than it does with a custom landing page, right? And so, from a cost and ROI, if we're able to more cleanly direct people to a story that, helps them paint the picture and helps them understand what, their path is within an organization, I think you see a pretty significant increase in ROI across all your marketing efforts too. Again, not a replacement for a career site, a very complementary aspect too. And that's the way we think about, landing pages.
Love it. Got to keep the eye on the prize. That ROI is important for sure. Before we get to Q&A, since we're coming up on time, hope everybody enjoyed this webinar today so far and found the information helpful. We'll also share that if you want to learn more about employer branding, recruitment marketing, we have created a comprehensive playbook that goes into detail on all the tactics that we've actually covered here today. So you can actually access it right now via this QR code by just scanning on your phone. And we'll also include it in follow-up email to you all that you all will receive shortly. So without any further ado, again, thank you all for joining. We'll open it up for Q&A. So again, for all those that are in attendance, you can simply drop your questions in the Zoom Q&A, and they should be coming in here shortly. Okay, I see actually a couple coming in so far. I see a question from David Wilson. How would you modify your approach for a staffing company, right? Where the candidates you're trying to attract technically work for you, but at your clients' workspaces? Marty, Graham, I guess I'm assuming that maybe this is in reference to some of the strategies that you all were referring to. You all want to take a stab at that one?
Yeah, happy to. I think this is a great question. It is one of these nuanced situations that's not, I mean, it is common, but I don't think there's a lot of resources for people in this situation. I think the big headline I would say is it depends, which I know is not satisfying. But if you're working for a staffing agency and it is truly just a technicality, as I think you refer to it in the description, then I'm honestly not sure a whole lot would change about this when you're recruiting for the end employer. The question is, what is happening in the mind of the candidate? Do they think that they're applying for a job with Amazon, or do they think are they really stoked about applying for any open position with your staffing firm? My guess is it's often the first one of those. And in that case, the strategy wouldn't change a whole lot. And yet, if you're working for a staffing agency where there is some kind of interesting relationship going on between the candidates in your pool, and there's some reason that they actually are choosing to do this through a staffing agency themselves, rather than this is just the hoop I have to get through in order to work for Amazon, well, then I think you'd probably take a different approach, and it would be a similar strategy, but you would be focusing on the staffing agency as the employer. I think it's hard to say in general without understanding the specific use case, but it's a great question. I think it's worth some conversation internally about what are we trying to do here, and again, can we get into the mind of the candidate and understand what choice they're actually trying to make.
Nice. Thanks for adding that, Marty, for sure. Second question here. Again, keep an eye on time, trying to keep us moving here. Is a screen nurture view available in Sense today? Let's see, I'm not sure, of course, which maybe visual we were specifically referring to, but if we're referring to the idea of being able to, pre-screen, and maybe from like hiring events and things of that nature, that is absolutely currently supported today, and we can absolutely do that. If that's of interest to you, whoever I guess asked that question, I don't see a name on this one, but definitely would recommend reaching out to your direct point of contact over at Sense, and then we can probably give you some guidance on exactly how to do that. But should absolutely be possible, of course, if it's within your product suite that you've gotten through Sense. Another anonymous question here. Can you share some more advice? Oh, another one came in. Hang on. Can you share some more advice on creating a policy that covers employees creating their own content, where the employees will unknowingly share sensitive or proprietary information? Marty, is this something you all come across a good amount? I imagine you would have some thoughts on this.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one part of a bigger conversation about what kind of employee created content do we want? What kind of content would support the brand? So yes, there's a layer of it that's about policy, not disclosing confidential information. So that's important to think about. But more important to think about, I would argue, is how are we prompting our employees to offer their opinions about what it's like to work for us? You know, if you ask a random group of employees what's great about working for Acme Company, you'll probably get 12 different answers, all that have some truth to it. Somebody really likes the monthly yoga, somebody likes the break room, somebody likes the foosball table, somebody likes work-life balance. Those are all fine answers to the question, but the activity that we're engaging here is trying to drive alignment and have a very strong message that we're all sending. And so getting back to one of the examples that I provided earlier, say our EVP is all about work-life balance. You know, the prompt should be not what do you love working about Acme Company? It arguably should be something like, can you share a time when you felt like you were really seen as a whole person in the office, and have them record videos about that. And so in that way, again, the EVP drives the strategy for everything, including things like employee generated content. We want to try to not encourage them to say things they don't mean, but we already know what they like. Let's get them to specifically talk about the messages and ideas that are core to our EVP.
Well put, Marty. Well put. One actual question that caught my attention. Hang on, I lost it. Nope, I lost it. Never mind. Let's see. A question from let's see, Nora. Do you recommend any tools for creating an employee story campaign? What do you recommend to engage a remote workforce to contribute photos and videos?
I can answer that without naming names. What I'd also, what I just suggest is, I think that a lot of times, talent acquisition teams, recruiting teams, feel like they're put in a box where they have to buy a recruitment video tool. And, from our standpoint, we've always taken a look at what we're doing from a recruitment marketing standpoint with consumer marketing and, at the forefront. And so that means I would just say, let's not be nervous about exploring, video content tools that may come from the consumer world. And I think you'll find that, oftentimes if you go find a video platform that, people are using for consumer stories, it might be a lot cheaper than, recruitment video tools too. So, take a look at some of the tools that are out there for consumer marketing. And I think you might be pleasantly surprised at, how easy it is to capture, stories and videos and photos, not just through the lens of, a recruitment video platform too. So that's my one piece of advice, Nora. Happy to take that conversation offline too.
Nice. Actually, one last question in the closing minutes that we got here. I just find that this question is probably something that most organizations have considered, at least to some extent, but how do you handle negative reviews? Maybe in general, but especially those that are on sites like Glassdoor.
Yeah, I mean, they are part of our brand. They are part of our reputation. They are part of our story. I think the solution, by the time it's hit the review site, there's really not much you can do about it. I mean, I seem some people may have closer relations with their Glassdoor reps than others, but the real solution is to be proactive about it. And this is why, even though people have survey fatigue, it's super important to find out who the unhappy people are and give them a place internally rather than in the public facing world to express their frustration. That's really the best you can do. You're going to get some negative reviews. Even the Apples of the world, of course, get negative reviews. And then, of course, the other piece is just responding to it. Do you have a strategy for how to respond to the reviews on a Glassdoor or some of the other review sites? And again, it's thinking back to the EVP. What kind of company are we saying we are? Why do people like working here? How would that kind of company handle this? That becomes a really useful filter, a big question that you always return to when you're navigating any kind of situation like this.
Absolutely. Yeah, great call outs, guys. Well, we are almost perfectly at time. So appreciate everybody for joining. Marty, Graham, it was truly a pleasure to be able to have you. It's a great conversation. Appreciate all the wisdom and insights you all have been able to provide. Again, for all those that are still on, we will be sharing out the recording and hope everybody has a great rest of your Tuesday. Thanks so much, everybody.